Welcome back. You're still watching Power Breakfast News. In a fresh twist to claims that security guards beat a banker to death in Mombasa recently, their employer has come forward to defend them against the accusations. Citing fresh CCTV footage, Solvit Security Solutions Limited says a guard hit David Wakabi on the back after he allegedly attacked guards with a sword. Wakabi was laid to rest at his family's home in Embu County yesterday. Dennis Otieno has the details.
Did the late David Wakabi threaten Solvit security guards before his death? That is the big question, as the security company at the center of the storm released this CCTV footage, appearing to show Wakabi wielding what it says was a sword after he was confronted by guards for allegedly answering a call of nature at a parking lot.
When he was confronted, he literally became violent and very abusive, and went to his car, picked up a sword, and once he picked up the sword, he literally went towards the guard and tried to be able to cut him on the neck. Our guard raised up his left hand to be able to protect himself, and then he was cut.
The efforts to calm down Wakabi did not bear any fruit, as he allegedly became more violent. The firm, however, admitted that Wakabi, who allegedly had a female companion, fell after a guard hit him on the back. He died later while undergoing treatment.
We are seeing there's an unidentified woman who tries to be able to move from the passenger seat of his car and goes to the driver's seat and tries to be able to reverse back the car. But in the process, Mr. Wakabi tells her to stop.
But this is a notion that the family of the deceased will not accept. As he was laid to rest today in Makutano village in Beere, South Embu County, his family demanded justice for Wakabi.
Hajakufa. Dave ameuliwa. Na ameuliwa kwa nini? So far hatujapata reason.
Police have arrested 2 security guards who were expected in court to face murder charges on Thursday. 2 other guards are on the run. Dennis Otieno, Citizen TV.
To the courts now. Nairobi Chief Magistrate's Court has yesterday acquitted 4 terror suspects accused of planting a bomb inside a restaurant at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport in 2014. In an indictment to investigators, Chief Magistrate Roslyn Onganyo said police had failed to prove that the 4 were found with 52 kilograms of explosives and that they committed the offense. Joshua Makori reports.
Announcing their freedom, Chief Magistrate Roslyn Onganyo said the prosecution purely relied on circumstantial evidence and failed to link Hassan Abd Mohammed, Mohammed Osman Ali, Yusuf Warsame, and Gerard Hassan Ali to the blast that rocked the Java Coffee House outlet at JKIA. Onganyo added that throughout the 4-year trial, prosecution witnesses presented before the court were inconsistent in their testimony, hence could not fully be relied on to convict the accused persons. The 4 were accused of planting the explosive on January 16, 2014.
It is trite law that whoever alleges a fact must prove the assertions they make before a court of law. This is provided for at Section 107 of the Evidence Act. The burden can only shift to the accused person in instances provided for example, at Section 111, subsection 1, and 119 of the Evidence Act, respectively.
The bomb was allegedly placed in a dustbin inside the hotel. No one was injured in the explosion. They were also accused of being in possession of 52 kilograms of TNT explosive material and being in the country legally, but police could not prove any of the charges. The judge also declined the prosecution's application to continue holding the suspects pending an appeal of the judgment. Kenya has in the past decade been battling a series of terror attacks linked to Al-Shabaab.
Business came to a standstill in the Nairobi Central Business District yesterday as gender activists took to the streets urging President Kenyatta to honor the two-thirds gender rule in his appointment of cabinet secretaries.
The activists set off from Uhuru Park's Freedom Corner and marched to the office of the president at Harambee House to present their petition. They accused the government of failing to pass legislation on the two-thirds gender principle. Earlier in the month, President Kenyatta unveiled 9 male nominees to the cabinet. The activists urging him to ensure women are fully represented when the full list is unveiled. Elsewhere, business...
Yes, that story is our discussion point at this side of the hour. It's also been covered in the dailies on the Standard. Women demand more slots in Uhuru cabinet. There's a photo on the front page on the top strip of that demonstration yesterday. Cabinet Secretary Nimama, I can read one of the placards there. Women need to be freed, not tearful. Yeah. Kenya walk rise against rape. Also to do with what's happening at the Kenyatta National Hospital. The story is on page 5. Uhuru told to name women to cabinet. Fate of 5 women who served in the past cabinet remains unknown. Group says President Kenyatta should include at least 9 women in his cabinet in fulfillment of the gender rule in the 2010 Constitution. Joining me in studio for this discussion, Mike Washira, Deputy Director, Center for Rights, Education and Awareness. Mike, good morning. Karibu sana.
Good morning to you. Thank you for having me.
Yes. You presented a petition to the Office of the President yesterday.
Yes,
what exactly is in that petition?
Well, what you've just alluded to in the newspaper today pretty much covers it. But I think we are now in a position where we are seeing the constant failure of the executive and parliament to be able to protect, uphold and promote the values and principles of the Constitution, one of which is gender equality. And the Constitution is very clear where it says not more than 2/3 of any gender can be in any appointive or elective positions. And this is an issue that we have been really trying to champion since the promulgation of the Constitution in 2010. And the courts have also pronounced themselves on this issue severally. And as it stands right now, we see that Parliament has not yet reached the threshold of the not more than 2/3. Cabinet itself has not yet reached the threshold of not more than 2/3. As a matter of fact, the previous Cabinet also did not reach the threshold of not more than 2/3. And Justice Songutu pronounced himself on this exact issue. And so what we're saying now is we're not waiting for the President to first announce who his nominees are and then react to that. We're saying, Mr. President, even in your last cabinet, we know it was unconstitutional for not meeting the law on composition, which is a not more than 2/3 gender threshold. This time around, you've already, said who your 9 appointees are so far. Out of a maximum of 22, then you need a certain threshold to be women.
Yes.
And what we're saying is now you already have 9 who are only men. Who are the rest going to be? How are you going to ensure that you promote and champion the principles and values of this Constitution, which you swore an oath to protect?
The President could decide to name his cabinet, his entire cabinet, even today. If the list comes out and the women are not at least 9, what next?
What next? First of all, he'll be in direct violation of the Constitution.
He has been previously.
He has been previously, yes. He'll also be in direct violation of decision of the court on the same issue. Justice Songutu in 2016 did pronounce himself on the issue and said the cabinet that comes after the August 27th election must comply with the not more than 2/3 gender threshold. Yet
you've seen that, and you mentioned correctly that even Parliament, as currently constituted, has not been able to meet that threshold. Nothing seems to be happening. They're still passing bills. They're still working on laws. That means that everything they do is considered constitutional, despite them failing to meet a constitutional requirement. The President could name his cabinet, and he has named the cabinet previously without meeting that threshold. Nothing happened to him. It appears that this protest and this push you engage in is futile then.
It is not futile, because if you look at Justice Mativo's judgment, if you look at Justice Songutu's judgment, as a matter of fact, the previous ruling or judgment on the issue of Parliament not being compliant with the law on composition provided an opportunity for us to petition the Chief Justice, who would then advise the President to dissolve Parliament. So the Constitution actually envisions a situation where Parliament itself is not compliant in terms of passing law to ensure that it meets the law on composition. Parliament then stands to be dissolved. That is already a process that is outlined in the Constitution. In terms of the Cabinet, we are saying that we hope the President takes his oath seriously.
So it's just a hope?
No, we are saying we hope he takes his oath seriously. Because if he does not, then we will be able to resort to all the means that are available to us in law for us to be able to agitate on this issue, for us to be able to ensure then that the President does what he is supposed to do. Even ensuring then that operations cannot continue until he does what he is supposed to do. Remember that Kenya does not operate in isolation.
Yes.
Also, in terms of its peer nations, in terms of its standing in the AU, in terms of its standing internationally, he is going to have to explain on such a platform why it is that Uganda has been able to pass this law, Tanzania has been able to be compliant, and Rwanda is also compliant with this issue, yet Kenya is not.
Yet some of these institutions you're talking about, like Parliament, they're very good at actually looking at legal loopholes. Last Parliament, they ensured that the time lapsed before they could effect that, even after the court had issued an order for them to do so. And now they pushed it to the 12th Parliament. They could still find another loophole, which you might not be able to beat. It appears that, yes, you've had an opportunity for the last 4.5, 5 years. You did nothing. Not just you, but now that you're agitating for that. The President did not meet that threshold. Nothing happened to him. Parliament failed to do that. Nothing happened to them. They passed laws. Those laws are in effect right now. However, on Constitution, we may claim they are right now. Should we really hope that something will happen this time round?
Yes, we must really hope, because remember, this is not an issue that we are saying that we're just leaving to chance. This is a principle that is in our Constitution. If we are a country that upholds the rule of law, if we are a country that says our Constitution is supreme, is the supreme law of the land, then we cannot follow it when it is only convenient for us. We must be able to ensure that we implement that Constitution to the spirit and the letter of the law. So we will do everything that is within our power, within the law, to ensure that Parliament is compliant and to ensure that the executive is also compliant and the President is also compliant in terms of putting together his cabinet.
Yes.
I don't want to name what those measures are going to be now, because I don't want to preempt.
But I'm assuming they must be legal. They must be.
That is why I said yes. We will use all the measures that are within the law that are available to us.
But talking about that particular provision in the Constitution, of course, there are people who have criticized that document that said some of those things cannot be achieved in a society like ours. Probably that's why we're finding it very difficult to even achieve it in Parliament, because not many women are getting elected. There's been affirmative action, seats set out specifically for women. We're still not able to achieve that. That probably it will be too expensive if we decide to go the way that county assemblies have done, just to top up the numbers. Don't you think that some of these provisions, while very well meaning, could be a bit overambitious for us, and probably that's why we're not able to achieve them?
The question I'll ask is this: do we consider Kenya a regional powerhouse? Do we consider Kenya a leader in this region in terms of economy, in terms of its progressiveness? If we do, how come Rwanda has been able to do it?
It's a different society.
How come Tanzania has been able to do it? How come Uganda, our neighbors next door, have been able to do it? What is it that they've been able to do that Kenya is unable to do?
That's the same question.
Exactly.
It appears it's something inherent in us.
It is not
Kenya,
inherent.
That we are just not able to go beyond.
It is not inherent, because this is just a matter of following the legislation and following the law. We gave very many proposals to Parliament on how this could happen. Of course, they ignored them. Those never saw the light of day in Parliament. The Attorney General also had his process to try and ensure then that this law was passed. The legislation that requires to be in place was in place. They ignored it. The issue here is not that it cannot be implemented. The issue here is that there's no political will to do so. Yeah? And it is very clear, if you just lift the mechanism that tops up the numbers for women in the counties to the national level, you'll have achieved not more than 2/3.
But it will be, don't you think that the cost therein will be a bit too much for a country already reeling under the burden of public debt?
The cost is not going to be too much. The Crown Trust, which is one of our partners in the suit against Parliament, commissioned the Institute of East Africa Affairs to do a study on how much it's going to cost to include the number of women in Parliament. And we looked at the worst case scenario, that no woman has been elected at all. It is going to cost each taxpayer 53 shillings a year.
Just to have extra MPs?
To cover the ones. This is even in a situation where no woman was elected. Yeah. So the issue of cost is that it's a very disingenuous argument that has been brought there to try and scuttle or to try and take away from the fact that the political will is not there for this to happen. Yeah. And you cannot talk of progressive and sustainable development in a nation where 52% of your population is sidelined from decision making. So we cannot talk about being able to progress as a society.
I'll take you back, as we finalize, I'll take you back to what I asked initially. Already Parliament has gone ahead. It's already working. Probably you've missed the opportunity with Parliament?
No, we've not missed the opportunity. We're actually in court on that same issue. And we are on court on the 29th of this month, so to speak. And so I don't really want to preempt what the facts and arguments are going to be in that case, but we are in court on the issue. So of course we're waiting for the court to be able to pronounce itself on that, and then we'll see where to move on from that. So we are not behind on it. We have been at the forefront of it since 2010.
At least the cabinet has not been named. The full list is still not out yet. There could still be some hope there.
I know this morning President Uhuru is watching you and he's saying, yes, I've heard what Fred has said.
I'm sure the President is watching. Good morning, Mr. President. You're listening. You're watching Power Breakfast. But now, do we therefore expect that the kind of action that we saw yesterday with activists marching to town and presenting a petition to the office of the President, are we expecting more such action in the near future?
I think what I have said still stands, that we are looking at all available options that are, available to us within the law, and those are things that we are considering. Of course, our right to picket, to present, to demonstrate, and to present petitions is a right that is in the Constitution. So that is not also something that we are ruling out.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much, Mike Wachira, Deputy Director, Center for Rights, Education and Awareness.
Thank you, Fred.
Power Breakfast still continues. Let's take another break. We'll be back to discuss matters politics. Don't go anywhere.